So this is perfect. I mean, I'll act like I'm not reading it. Okay.
And he's got some video.
Larry said there were some slides,
Got some
Yeah,
video
they're gonna give it to him.
They got a video too on 503.
and I see it
I saw it
mentioned in
today.
here.
I saw it today.
Time-lapse
Doesn't show much though
video.
because they don't have a lot.
So do you know who's bringing the slides or video?
Well, Larry just mentioned they're gonna bring it down.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, many of them.
I will review it tonight and tomorrow, and I'll give you a call tomorrow if anything worries me or. All right, thank you.
Oh, did I leave that? Where did I leave that? It's been there the whole time.
I just saw it there now.
Wow,
Probably think it's still sitting on there.
wow, that's pretty good.
Hi, Jeff.
Good, how are you?
Always looking after the preacher. Thank you.
Phase 2 on the utility boxes, huh?
Hey, Gloria.
Did your artist?
Gloria. Am I supposed to take one, pass them down, or?
Hi, Lisa.
Sorry about that.
They even started pressing me like that.
Okay, guys. Thought you guys were waiting on the
Oh, okay.
It's after 6.
They're spreading our,
Do we all have a stack of them? Oh, okay.
Hey, ladies.
Yeah, I'll probably do that. He's better at that than I am.
oh, really?
That was really good. First I'm like, oh,
I know.
but after you start that's how it is.
Is that yours?
Yeah, they passed out a couple of these. Did you get one of these?
Well, I got one.
You got a
Pretty good. Yep. Keep it
Oh, I see
busy.
what you're saying.
Oh, 601. Sorry, we were up here talking. We'll call the meeting to order. This is our planning session for tonight, City Council. And Mr. Raines, you want to kick this off?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you. We have two items that we're going to speak to the council regarding this evening. The first is the presentation and discussion on the counties preserving our future campaign, which is really focused on our transportation improvement and maintenance program. And tonight, we've got Celeste from Pinal County, who will be providing the mayor and council with an overview of the presentation and entertaining any questions. So I'll hand the microphone to her.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. I'm Celeste Garza. I'm the Deputy Public Works Director for Pinal County. I'm here to provide you an update on our Transportation Maintenance and Improvement Fund update, which is also known as our Preserving Pinal campaign. So, how is road maintenance funded in Pinal County? We have 3 different sources of revenue. The first is our VLT, which is our vehicle license tax. This is what you pay when you pay for your car registration. Next is our highway user revenue funds. So these are the funds that are collected from the gasoline tax and was last increased in 1991. I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. And then our third source of revenue is our half-cent excise tax. So that's the fund we're talking about today. We do not currently use property tax sourced from county residents to maintain roads in the county. A brief history. So our half-cent excise tax has been in place for nearly 40 years now. So most of my adult life I've been paying for this, and several residents have too. It was originally passed in 1986. This was just a few years after Prop 400 was passed in Maricopa County to source for the interstate system. So that's what paid for your loop system that's that you travel in the metro area. At that time, Pinal County was only a population of about 100,000. So we've increased significantly. It sunsetted in 2006 and was renewed in 2005 by voters. And at that time, the population of the county was about 255,000. So this 20-year span will sunset in 2026. And just it's important to mention that this is a renewal of an existing fund that's in place. This has nothing to do with the Prop 417 or 469, which is our Regional Transportation Authority. The Maintenance and Improvement Fund is it maintains, preserves, and repairs our roadways. It is, sourced between 10 different municipalities that are located in the state. So there's a portion that goes to the county and then portions that are divvied out by population to the cities and towns. The distribution of this revenue is populations-based, so it's a formula that's developed through the Arizona Department of Revenue and then locally distributed amongst the cities and towns. So the fund is used for a variety of purposes: for road repair, road widening, traffic safety, pothole repair, preservation, new road construction, intersection improvements, and highlighted in red I have the road pavement preservation, which is how the city here uses most of their revenue for preserving existing infrastructure. So the fund's goals. Some of our other fund goals outside of those is just improving public safety. So safer intersections as well as connecting streets to reduce emergency response time, managing growth. We have grown exponentially in population, so we're trying to find creative ways to source infrastructure. Protecting taxpayers. So preserving our roads avoids complete rebuilds, saves taxpayers money. Air quality, we're under some PM10 mitigation for dust pollutants, so we also source the funding for that effort. This is a bar graph which shows how the revenue is dispersed amongst the cities and towns. In the last fiscal year, the revenue was generated about $36 million, which averaged about $3.1 million monthly to the fund. So far in the fiscal year we're in, it's collected about $19 million, which is in the same ballpark of about $3 million a month. The city itself receives about $416,000 monthly for the revenue. This fiscal year it's about $2.9 million. This is another pie chart that shows the percentage of distribution. So the county in population today is a little under 500,000. Half of those residents live in unincorporated Pinal County, and then the other half of the pie chart are the cities and towns in which they live. 13% of that is Casa Grande residents. Road maintenance funds facts. So these are specific to the city's pavement preservation program. There's been several lane miles that have been improved over the course of the last 20 years in overlays, pavement marking. So this is your striping, restriping, crack sealing. There's been a significant amount of crack sealing that's been done. And this is a map that's showing how the county has used some of their excise tax for work in and around the District 3 area. So in the hatched area are the city of Casa Grande city limits. The green area is showing District 3, which is under Supervisor Miller. And then there's just several things that we've done over the last 20 years kind of in and adjacent and around the city of Casa Grande. I'm going to turn things over to Kevin Lewis, your Public Works Director, to provide you some specifics of how the city's used some funding over the years.
Thank you, Celeste. Yeah, so I did want to go over some of the highlighted projects that we've accomplished over the years. This is not a all-inclusive list. This is just highlights of some of those projects, but this fund really does make our pavement preservation program possible. That's a lot of P's. Okay, I won't say that one again. Probably the most notable of recent was our Florence Boulevard Mill and Overlay project. Had an impact on a lot of residents, both positively and negatively. Negatively during the construction, and then positively, looking at the pavement condition now. And then I've got some slides in here that we'll go over. This was our downtown street reconstruction project, phase 1, that we did in 2007. And these are just some photos of the project, both during and after the project. You can see in the lower right-hand corner the roundabout at the end of Jimmy Kerr, where it intersects with Main Street and 2nd Street. And then some of the construction while it was in process there. Another project a little while longer ago was the Truckle Cottonwood and Casa Grande Avenue Mill and Overlay. It was a thin mill and overlay of those major arterials. Again, during the projects we impact the motoring public negatively, but we've got a great road out there with a good pavement condition. All preventative maintenance of the existing structure so that hopefully we can forego having to reconstruct, a total reconstruct, which costs a lot more money than the preservation that we do with these types of projects. And then we, about 3 years ago, we did the reconstruction of actually last year was the reconstruction of Western Manor subdivision out just adjacent to our industrial area. The roads needed to be reconstructed, and we got that project done. This is a photo of our Rancho Grande construction, and that was one where we had to go in and restabilize the subgrade before we put the new pavement back down. Great process that we've used on several different projects around the city. Rancho Grande probably the largest of those projects of late. And then this is some photos of us doing the chip seal. This one was actually, I think, this one is Early Road between Hacienda, the I-10 overpass, and Peart Road. So that was the double chip seal we did, and that checked a couple boxes off. Of course, Celeste mentioned we're in a PM10 non-attainment area, so we have to do what we can to try and mitigate some of the dust impacts from our roadways, and this was one that checked that box off, as well as giving the motoring public a back route around Florence Boulevard if they choose to go that way. Our phase 2 of the downtown streets reconstruction project effort really had a facelift for that downtown. Hopefully we'll have phase 3 coming here in the future. Of course, this tax would be integral to that type of a project moving forward. Another example was out in the VIP Boulevard area in our industrial area. We did a Cape Seal project. That's where we put down a rubberized chip seal to help stabilize the top of that roadway surface, and then we put a slurry seal on top of that, hence the Cape Seal. Great pavement preservation effort to hopefully give that road quite a few additional years before we need to do anything major to it. And this is an in-house project we did on First Street in our downtown area. Of course, the funds that this tax produces helped us pay for the asphalt and materials that we needed for that project. And our annual crack seal program, that's typically what we do up in front of our pavement maintenance. So the surface treatments that we're going to be doing, we do the crack sealing first, and then we come back in and do the surface treatments. And those are chip seals, slurry seals, micro seals, different types of surfacing projects. And is this one yours?
So like I mentioned, the population of Pinellas County today is a little under 500,000 residents. The funding source is set to sunset in 2026. Over the last summer and the winter time frame, we were working with a consultant, High Ground, who's helping us with our marketing campaign to preserve our future public awareness. We're at the point where we are providing information to our cities and towns, and in April and May, we're going to be out at open houses and public meetings for the public to attend. Our public house open house is set for April 10th, so we'll be at the Casa Grande Rec Center on April 10th at 4:30. That's everyone from the public can come in and hear this presentation, ask any questions they may want to about the fund. And then we'll be starting potential voter pamphlets around the June timeframe if we gain support from all the cities and towns to move forward. And then this would be on the ballot on November 5th. So what happens if the road maintenance tax expires? So we're currently receiving about $36 million annually in revenue. If there isn't enough to maintain our roadways, we'll have to find creative ways to source transportation, or we're severely impacted with roads that look like this. This is the old US 60, so when the US 60 you drive today was installed, ADOT then handed the old road back to us, and this is one of our failing pieces of infrastructure that doesn't see a lot of traffic, but it's fell low on the priority list of preservation. So that's kind of the piece of the puzzle where I'm not sure where we'll be if it does expire. I recently took my daughter to get her instructional permit on Friday, and I'm going to do everything I can to preserve her future, her safety, her transportation, as well as, you know, our future growth and them traveling the roadways that we have. So I am happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions, anyone? Lisa?
Just a comment, thank you for the presentation, but Celeste, how can we as a city, and you're probably already working with staff to make sure that we're getting the messaging out there, because as we know in November, there's so much on the ballot, and so how can we as a city help educate, you know, our citizens besides what you're doing? Or are you asking cities to help along, and how?
You know, anything you can do to advertise an open house meeting. I don't know if you have local chamber meetings, local public meetings that the city has. If you can do anything to post that on your social media, that would be very helpful to get the word out. The big thing that we're trying to communicate to residents is that this is very different from what they've seen on the ballot in the past. This is much a renewal, as it is nothing new to them. Nothing's going to change for them, really. So that's kind of the message that we're trying to send.
Hey, Celeste, one of the things that I had asked the county for was, because I've been working with them on this for a while, and I think it'd be most impactful if, you know, that list of projects, Kevin, that you kind of went through, is if there were real dollars attached to it. So me as a citizen, I know that, you know, this road cost us, you know, $5 million or whatever it was. So there's real money attached to it, not just, oh yeah, I remember Florence Boulevard getting, you know, a mill and fill. Well, how much was that? And how much did we spend on that? And so they see that there's real dollars in it. Because I know you've got 36 million collected, but there's no real number on what we did with it, right? I mean, there was projects, but the dollars aren't attached to the project. And I think that would be more impactful for our citizens.
Sure.
You know,
We can certainly put together for the April 10th meeting some of that information in a pamphlet form so that they
yeah,
can
or
understand.
even, and I had suggested to the county that they put together this kind of a presentation, but maybe in a, right? And so it's sweet and short, but then send that to us and let us customize for our community, right? So those projects that Kevin had listed and he went through are in this, right? So we customize it for Casa Grande. So when I'm talking to my citizens, I'm talking directly to them and the impact it had on their neighborhood, right? So, or on their road that they travel all the time. And I think that, we can certainly help spread that word, and that's kind of what I've told the county also. So, before we get to May, before we get too far along, I think that, all of us are Rotary members, or, we're part of, Boys and Girls Club, or the Chamber, or whatever all the boards are that we are on, our Faith Alliance groups. I mean, all of these groups have a voice in the community, and we can get that word out there. So anything you can do, any tools you can give us, we will use. So
Absolutely. We'll get those to you.
Matt?
Also, it's a great idea, Mayor, because people want to see in our community what is coming back. And also, I mean, even in District 3, because I was just looking at Thornton Road, and that affects us a lot, even though it's technically not in the city, but it goes
Some
right
of
up to
it
the
is,
city.
some is not.
Yeah, but, also year by year, so people know, hey, this has been a long-term project. This has been going on for a long time, and it's been over all these years how much stuff we've done with it, because you drive on them every day, you look at them, complain about them if you want, but one of our, if not our largest piece of infrastructure is roads. I mean, it's the most expensive to maintain, it's the most expensive we own, and Kevin and his department have done a great job with our pavement protection, or preservation program, our Triple P program, and I hope people know, we talk about it from time to time, but we have grading of all of our roads. I mean, they get graded every year to know where we're gonna do the repairs, where we're gonna do it. It's definitely not arbitrary. He has a master schedule of what's gonna happen and where we're gonna do it. And, this is a great way for us to continue something that's already going, because the most, I think all of you hear the same as I do. One of the biggest complaints, suggestions we get is traffic, transportation, and roads. And we're doing some of our own, but we couldn't do the ones that we're doing on our own without the help from the county tax that we get from them and the HERF funds. So it's just really important that we get the word out again, because this is a huge issue for people, and it's something that continues to get used every day, and people, you take it for granted, but you don't realize how expensive it is to maintain that huge piece of infrastructure.
Absolutely. It's a vital asset. It's an essential need for, the public, and it's very,
And safety,
very,
like you said.
Yes.
Yeah, I just have one more comment that I have, and just out of curiosity, because I know if we're collecting $36.5 million a year, the formula isn't exactly 13%, is it? Because if it was 13%, it should be like $4.7 million that we get, not 2.9. So I'm sure there's some other administrative fees in there or something that.
Mayor, the 2.9 is what we've collected thus far this fiscal year.
Okay.
So that was only up until January, which is
Okay.
what we have revenue information
All right,
from.
well, then I would suggest, let's compare apples to apples. So let's
Sure.
take a full year. Otherwise, it looks funny. It's funny math to me, because if I apply 13% to 36 million, it's $4.7 million, not
And
2.9.
Mayor, that's very correct. Yeah, the city, in fiscal year 22-23, which is where we have a full year of revenue, the city received 4.68
Okay,
million.
there you go. That's the number you should be using, not 2.9, okay? So then that way, then we put our map up that says, all right, here's where we spent all that money, right? And it shows everything that we've used it on. And so that's where the connection has to come with our citizens. They have to understand that these roads don't fix themselves, and that their tax dollars are actually being used to fix their roads. So I think every road project we do, we should have some big sign that says, hey, these are your tax dollars at work. I know we have them, we have some, and this preserving our future should be on every one of those projects with the, your money at work here. So I just, in terms of marketing, that's just kind of what I do. And so it's important, I think, to make sure that we are out there and in front of it.
There's one on Thornton.
Yes, we have
Yeah.
one. The county has them up on their transportation improvements, and we're happy to provide that
Well,
template.
and we're using them too.
We've incorporated that. We're working with our PIO office, and we're definitely putting those signs up more often.
Yeah, I think they should be everywhere, personally. So, just, that's this guy's opinion, so. Anybody else have any questions or comments? I'm sorry. Celeste, thank you. Thank you to the county.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just elaborate just
Thank you,
very
Kevin.
quickly on the question that Councilwoman Fitzgibbons raised related to our alignment. A couple of points that I want to make sure that everyone is aware of is that while this is a county ballot initiative, we're as a governmental partner are going to be required to follow the same statutes in regards to elections, our abilities. And so it's going to be very fact-based, and I know all of you are familiar with that. But Heather Kennedy is here this evening. She's here for a specific reason. She's well aware of the joint and aligned effort that we've been having dialogue with the county and all the other municipalities. And some of it, Mr. Mayor, goes right back to your point about the signs. I know that we have requested 2 of the signs that the county has created to install related to this particular initiative. But we will be incorporating and certainly like the suggestions this evening about perhaps adding some dollar figures to the factual document that we will be putting out. But it will be very similar to other types of voter initiatives that we've dealt with in Casa Grande, where we will be giving presentations and the like. I guess I would just stress, and I know that both Celeste and Kevin did a fantastic job in the presentation. This funding source is critical to the city of Casa Grande, and quite frankly, every municipality and the county. And just to give the context, and I know this council is aware, the city of Casa Grande has really focused on larger projects, and you saw a few examples of that this evening. But without that, I can assure everyone in this community that the HERF revenues that we generate, that are in question year after year, are not going to be sufficient, and a $4.8 million hit to our road preservation efforts would be significant in this community, and we would see the city would see it, our residents would see a decline in those numbers very rapidly. But at the end of the day, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we will continue to work alongside the county on this initiative, and we'll be hopeful that we see similar results to the reauthorization that occurred 20 years ago.
Thank you, Larry. All right, no other comments or questions on this subject?
I had one more.
Go ahead, Matt.
On the website, Celeste, that you guys have, is it possible, like, if you go to the website, can you look up Casa Grande or Kearney, or, so each people that look at it can look up their own municipality to see how that's affecting it?
We can add links to it. Yeah, right now it's primarily news articles and information about the public information that's been put out. So we can direct people if you guys have a source of a page to.
Like we could put our information, then you could just say,
Link.
hey, if you want to look at what is done for Casa Grande, this
Absolutely,
is it right
yeah. We,
Just an idea.
certainly, we can do that.
That one page with all the projects and dollars attached to it.
Okay. We'll do that.
All right.
Thanks.
We can create the dollars in the page, but, okay. Thank you, Celeste. Thank you, Kevin. All right, let's move to item number 2 on our list, which is our city campus master plan project update. Scott?
Mayor McFarland, members of the council, you'll recall from a previous study session presentation back in early December, we secured the services of a consultant to assist us with the City Hall campus master plan project. And you'll probably also recall that as kind of task 1 of that was taking the plans that we were able to find for a proposed remodeling of the auditorium building from 2003 and updating those figures as a start for us to understand what it would cost to try to put that facility back into service along the lines of what was determined to be appropriate, at least in 2003. And so we did that. Unfortunately, we were not able to find the spec book or the bid book that went with it. And so while the consultant and those working with the consultant were able to do a good job of getting numbers together, they had to represent their work to be a rough order of magnitude cost estimate. So it's a little bit in general, but I think it's close enough for our purposes as we move together and consider that. In addition, once we saw the initial report, it was our decision then to kind of put the consultant on a hold as we considered, as we prepared to bring this issue back to you. And we're hoping, based on our meeting this evening, that we can have some significant guidance from mayor and council as we move ahead in the process with the auditorium and the gymnasium building, which staff feels like their futures are inseparably linked. Stephen is going to bring up a video. I provided the matrix report to you at the last council meeting, so you had an opportunity to look through it carefully. We asked our PIO office to facilitate some video. There are pictures in the report, but there's nothing like putting the live pictures there. So this lingers a little bit on the roof, but we will be looking at the roof issue. Go ahead and start it, Stephen. We're going to be looking at the roof issue along the way. Then as we move into the building, we're going to be looking at the stage, then the east side ceiling, the east side floor, the lobby, and then finally the Armadillo Room, which was one of the three meeting rooms. When we first assumed ownership of this campus and that building, the individual, Manny Labust, who was in charge of the drama department and in charge of the building, gave me one piece of advice. He said, whatever you do, make sure that you get somebody up on the roof periodically to clean the roof drains out so that the water doesn't back up. I'm happy to report, based on these pictures, there isn't a lot of debris up there in terms of extraneous debris and leaves and what have you. But as you can see, there's very large sections of the coating of the roof that are now missing in the area, and also the roof over the lobby area or the ticket booth area, and the two adjacent spaces you can see. This will take a little while to get through this, but I'll kind of talk over that. I had previously reported that the remodeling project that was put on the table in 2003 was put out to bid, and the low bid on that project was just under $2.5 million for the work that needed to be done then, 20 years ago. So Matrix took that particular set of plans and updated the cost estimates.
Scott, what was the extent of that work? Meaning, what was that to?
Was that just shoring it up?
Was that just doing the roof, or what
It was the entire project. The improvements that were anticipated that included relocating, putting a new lobby on, splitting the main auditorium into two sections to make it more usable.
So internal improvements too?
It was HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and those kinds of issues.
Thank you.
And the minutes record that the 2.47 actually had omitted a couple of things, but the bidder at that time was willing to stand by his $2.47 million bid. So this area here is what used to be called the Band and Choral Rooms, the meeting space, was headquarters for the Community Services Department, and the three meeting rooms, dubbed the Armadillo, Bobcat, and Coyote rooms, which were heavily used. All of that until the Community Recreation Center was built and Community Services Department itself was relocated. Again, some close-ups from a drone shot of the condition of the roof. And I think it was noted at the last meeting, there wasn't a majority of council to move ahead with this project in 2003. And consequently, although there's been conversation over the years, really nothing has been done in relationship to stabilization or any other kind of ongoing maintenance of the building, and you'll see the results of that from an interior perspective. And again, the consultant has included some pictures in the report, but the drone gives you a little better idea, and we're about to move into the building. And just a brief picture of the stage, a little bit rough. There's a number of file boxes that are melted on the stage because of water. Now you're looking to the
Water damage.
looking south, So on the left there is the east side, and we'll be focusing in just a moment. The drone will be flying up and looking at the ceiling conditions. Obviously, the most leakage in the auditorium has been on the east side. There we go. I've got it right. And we'll zoom out here just a minute, and you'll see the damage done to the floor, how much water has come in over the years as well. And there's different points in the ceiling as well. Picture of the floor on the east side. We're now in the lobby area, or the booth area, which has had a lot of water over the years. Remember judging or announcing a Christmas parade, electric light parade, under the awning over there, and there was as much water flowing into the inside as there was, I think, to the outside, and you can see the results of that in the roof. Fortunately, the building has been secured, and I don't think we've had a lot of issues with intruders. Again, we're still in the lobby area. Now we're in the Armadillo Room, which has suffered the most damage in terms of roof leaks. And you can see from the ceiling tile situation how much leakage has taken place in that room. The other two rooms are in fairly decent shape. So very graphic illustration of where we're at right now. The estimate, the rough order of magnitude cost estimate to do what was bid at $2.47 million 20 years ago is at $13.431 million. That's the estimate, again, not having the bid book, but the scope and the magnitude, the representation of the roof, mechanical systems, and what have you, in totally need of repair. We have touched base on a couple of things. We were able to find an asbestos survey that was done. So we have that, which might help us a little bit in relationship to doing the necessary phase one. We've talked with our planning and development director about the issue of parking. If we would be needing to comply with the parking rules, if we were able to put that back into service. So there's been some other areas, but we didn't want to go anywhere without bringing this back to you all to get your perspective on this issue. It's very, very difficult to do the rest of the camp or any of the campus planning unless we kind of understand what your feelings are about the future of these two buildings. With that, Mr. Mayor, I'll ask Larry if he has anything to add, and then we can answer questions.
No, Scott, thank you. Nothing really more to add at this point. I think you did a nice job on the overview.
Anyone have questions for Scott? Go ahead, Bob.
Scott, was there any kind of budget figure or estimate figure assigned to any upgrades or improvements? Because I know typically these older buildings have very poor restroom facilities, and it seems to me like if we were going to remodel it to be used, that there would be some things that we want to not just refurbish or replace, but we would want to expand them. Has that been given any thought at all?
Mayor McFarland, Councilmember Huddleston, yes, in fact, the design plans from 2003 built essentially a new lobby area facing this direction and significant new restroom facilities. So the ADA requirements from 2003 were fairly significant, and in accessibility and all of the things that were needed to make the auditorium usable. And again, to carry forward the council at that time's direction to be able to accommodate, separate half of the auditorium at any time. So the answer to your question is yes, these were not just to get it back open. These were requirements, these were things that were necessary 20 years ago. they may or may not have looked extremely carefully at things that have been upgraded rule-wise since then. But I think it's good to say that this included all of those kinds of things that you're probably thinking about.
Okay.
Scott, if we did that $13.43 million improvements, and we use this, do we even have enough parking?
We didn't get down to the actual yay or nay.
Because there's not a lot of parking there.
We would have to use the vacant space that we have on 8th Street to even
Come close.
begin to speak to it.
Yeah.
Larry, am I representing that correctly?
Matt, go ahead.
We have put out over the last few years some RFPs and RFQs, I believe, to try to stimulate or get ideas from people who would want to partner or transform this into something maybe not an auditorium, maybe, whatever. We were looking for any ideas. And my understanding is we got very little interest or response back from that. Is that?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Herman, you're right on all fronts. I believe I know that we've put out a request for information at least on 2 occasions, maybe 3, and went through the process to determine if there would be any type of interest on the part of a developer, a property manager, something of that nature, and ultimately never had what I would consider to be a submittal that would be worth pursuing. There were always individuals that were looking for the space, but I don't know that they would have had the wherewithal or the financial capability of making the improvements and/or being an organization that we could do a complete redevelopment with.
And I know, not to jump the gun, but I've heard, and you've given us reports on exploring the other auditoriums in town.
Right.
Do we have a survey or like a usage chart of those? Have that been put together, like how much they're actually used and what their vacancy is and what their, so how many people could use it more?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Herman, we do not have an actual matrix of use. We do know that we've got a couple of different venues in the community, primarily that are owned by the school districts. We've obviously converted our women's club to a bit of a venue, and so we have data from those particular groups and organizations. I will say that my understanding is that the Pint Center out at CAC is a venue that's regularly used because of the size and the amenities. Unfortunately, they've had some issues with their facility as well, and so there is. I guess I would spend just a second. I was going to save this to the end, but just to brief the council on the dialogue that we've most recently been having with the elementary school district. And I know the council is aware, we brought this up during the last study session, that there's been some discussions with the elementary school district about a potential partnering for a shared use of the Dr. Frank Davidson auditorium. That dialogue, we've had follow-up meetings. The meetings have been very productive. We are looking to take what I consider to be the next step in that dialogue by commissioning a feasibility study that really talks about the programming that might happen there, about the potential costs. It really becomes the framework for any type of a future intergovernmental agreement between the two entities as an option for us to have a performing arts venue that is better suited, better equipped for both large and smaller productions. I would also add at this point in time, because I know the mayor and council is aware of the fact that there have been a group of former elected officials that have been very interested. Some of those on the council at the time that Scott outlined in 2003, when the decision was made on this particular auditorium that is in our ownership. And we have met with them on a couple of occasions as well. And we have briefed them on much of the same information that the mayor and council has learned tonight. We wanted to make them aware of essentially the realities of the existing space and the cost to renovate. And I think that all of them they want something to be done with the space that can be useful. I think that their opinions vary on what that might look like. Back to the RFI, there's always been a thought that perhaps there could be a public-private partnership of sort. There's others that believe that government space, that this is a government campus that ought to be focused to that. That is essentially what led us down this path on this City Hall master plan, is to continue to do some visioning. But in essence, as Scott has pointed out, the key element is whether or not that space needs to be preserved for an auditorium, or whether or not we ought to be looking at other better suited options for that particular location and space.
And I'm pretty sure we've looked into grants for that. I mean, because is it necessarily historical or not?
No.
It is my understanding that we have not considered this, this particular facility has not been designated as a historic venue. We have never looked at attempting to get it qualified as a historic venue. And so the specific historic grants we would not be eligible for those. Right. There could be some performing arts types of funding that would be available. I think you could essentially apply those types of funds to any venue location that you selected.
And last time we talked about it, I mentioned that most communities that have theaters of this magnitude have a name connected to them as in a financial backer.
Yes.
And the other thing is the audio-visual stuff. I don't know if that's included, because I know that can get very expensive. These, computer controls and lights and sound and, I mean, I don't know if that's.
Councilmember Herman, I have the plans,
I mean, just something to think about, I mean.
and I don't remember seeing the specificity in the bid, in the documented report.
I didn't see it in there, and then lastly, I have to say, every time that my mom reminds me, there's a time capsule in the corner of that building from her high school
Get the time
class.
capsule
So
out.
We'll
don't forget
take
about
that.
the time capsule.
And Larry, and if I can add a little more color to this conversation, the Frank Davidson Auditorium is in good shape. They've kept it up. It has new HVAC. It's got a new roof. It's in really good shape. It just needs an upgrade. And it only gets used. They use that auditorium maybe 4 or 5 times a year. That's it. So I think if we can enter into some agreement with them, and maybe I'm traveling where I shouldn't. Brett, okay, I'm okay, all right. That I think that we could help manage that facility with them and make it an entertainment and public, auditorium, program, and then that would actually, and there's a lot of parking there. They have a lot of parking. So the parking is not a problem, and then rehabbing it and new audio visual in there as well. I mean, so there's a whole new bathrooms, because it has 2 bathroom stalls for 900 people. So it's outdated. But so the same problem we have, they have, but their bones are better.
Yeah.
And so I think that, this space needs to be used. We have to figure out what that use is going to be. There's a lot of ideas, a lot of vision out there on what it might be. I think, it's good space. Can we preserve a wall or 2? Yeah, I think that would be kind of cool to incorporate it into the architecture of the building, and preserve some of the history. And then sell all the other bricks.
Right. I'm saying, but we don't want to put all that money into that.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't
Yeah,
understand.
I'd rather put $6
Upgrade
million
over
in there,
there.
that one, and have a state-of-the-art facility than put $13 million in this one, and
Right.
just have a shell.
And it's a shame. I really love that facility. I believe in 1993, All-in-One Community Choir, which I was the president of, we sung in there. And then to look at the pictures,
Not different.
sad. Yeah. It's that we let that go to waste like that over these years, and we just sit on it, And now it's costing us more money. From 2003, I think you had 2.7.
Yeah.
Now we're at
2.4.
13.5. It's unfortunate, and to put a lot of money into that, to get it back where it needs to be, I think we should not do that. We should not do that.
Bob, I'm sorry.
Donna's been,
Oh, Donna, go ahead.
That's okay. Just a couple comments, and I agree with Anthony. You know, you hear about how it has become what it is, and we can do the woulda, coulda, shoulda, but the fact is that it's very sad to see those pictures, and not to place blame anywhere, but shame on all of us, as a community. But I think that when you're looking at the 13.5 million, I think that it is a lot. And I know that there have been talked about grants, and it's something that was not available at the time, even back as 2003. So I know that, everybody talks about there's all kinds of grants that you can get, but in actuality, we should have done that in 2003 if that was the case, and it wasn't. Parking is an issue, and I'm just wondering, not that it really at this point matters, but in the 13.5 million, did that include like bringing it up to fire code and all those kind of, not just, and I agreed with Matt because I was looking at technology, but just the basics.
Mayor McFarland, Councilmember McBride, if you look at the report, they make a couple of general statements, our consultant.
Right.
That significant core and shell improvements to address several generations of updates to the building codes, structural, life safety, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, changes to building standards, technology, and operations over the past 20 years. These would mostly occur in the use of energy, mechanical systems, security, operations, and sustainability. So it includes all of those things. So,
Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
Right.
but whatever's changed from the standards in 2003, plus whatever the council that decided to look at this and redesign it, or do a community design or whatever, those things are not a part of this. It simply took these plans from 20 years ago and updated them.
Right. And I think that that's something that we have to look at, and because we have to be good representatives, because we have, we have people that want to do things to older buildings here in town. And when they look at those, the first thing that happens is that we have our fire department go out and they look and make sure they're within code. We have to do that as well. And I think that if we got down to the nitty gritty, I think it would be a lot more than 13 million
I think
after
so,
looking
too.
at that.
and that
Go ahead,
was
Bob.
going to be my point too, that with our collective experience, I think we know that 13, 14 million is going to be 20 million. And I agree with the mayor that the Frank Davidson Auditorium is a much better foundational start for this idea. But I also think the group of former city leaders that is pushing to keep it, I think they're going to have something to say about this.
Well, I think Larry had a good conversation with him. Larry, maybe you can kind of, explain, because I think you mentioned the Frank Davidson Auditorium and some of the work we're doing with the elementary school, and they seemed that they were willing to capitulate and to work with us in terms of what potentially it could become, in terms of our campus, our total campus here. So I think you have to look, we need to look at this as a total campus, right? Not just that building,
Right.
or not just
And
the auditorium.
we could-
We got to look at the
We had
whole.
previously kind of tossed that around, and I love the idea of having Fire Station 1 right out there on Florence Boulevard.
That's one of the visions. Yeah.
One of the visions. But I think we need to pick a stance on how we're going to be able to discuss it with these former
Sure,
leaders.
absolutely.
And my suggestion, I don't even know if this is possible, but we present their option back to them as a bond issue where they would have to sell it to the citizens. Because I don't believe your average citizen out there wants to invest a lot of money in that auditorium.
Agreed.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, just let me add some of the context, because I think it's important to the point that was just raised by Councilmember Huddleston. The overall, the lion share of the passion of this particular group is to achieve some type of a performing art venue that we can be proud of in Casa Grande. And they all were very pleased to learn that we were pursuing the dialogue with the elementary school district. Because of the knowledge of a few of them in regards to performing arts, they had what I would consider to be a few elements that they told us to take extra caution on. And certainly we could, if the idea is to renovate this particular auditorium, we could certainly take a bond question of that nature. My sense is that the group, we would likely want to incorporate their input as part of the visioning, but they just want something done. I think at this point, they want to see something done with the building. And that could be that can include being raised and with another facility being added in its place. But at the end of the day, I think that it is more about do something with it now. Do something.
I think
both
that was-
buildings, both the gym as well.
They have not had the type of dialogue on the gymnasium component because their focus has been performing arts.
Okay.
I think it's more of a staff's perspective that as we start to do more of a master planning concept, that space will likely be needed for other types of growth within the community and or the organization.
So Larry, what do you want from council?
Well, from council, Mayor, we were really looking for direction as to whether or not you wanted us to continue to proceed with preserving that particular facility, right, Scott? I mean, if that was the direction that we were going to go, then we would ultimately begin to focus on the engineering design of that being the performing arts facility. If that is not the direction that you would prefer that staff go and that we begin to look at other alternatives, then we'll start down that master planning concepts to bring visions back to the mayor and council to evaluate.
Yeah, just my thoughts are that I think it would behoove us to look at our entire campus, look at the future needs of the city, whether it's a fire station 501, or whether it's new office complexes, whether it's a new council chamber. You know, not that this isn't functional, but as we grow, the council chamber needs to grow, and this could be used for office space or something. I'm just talking, you know, off the cuff here. And so, but I'd love to see, you know, a vision and a plan that, you know, brings some ideas, get somebody involved, get a engineering group like Wilson or somebody, and have them, you know, give them what we need, right? What we're looking for, and then have them come back with some ideas, kind of like what we're doing with the auditorium.
Yes.
But for this campus.
We're engaged with the Matrix group for that specific engagement now, Mayor.
Okay. Lisa had something she wanted to say.
Well, no, and I appreciate the visual. I think that was very helpful. I haven't been inside, so I had no idea. I'm like you, brought back a lot of memories. But of course, at the beginning, you know, I always thought, oh, it would be great to preserve it, but not at this price tag. I mean, I think, you know, like you said, Mayor, it's time to kind of move forward, see how we're going to, you know, move into the future and what the needs are. I would like to see, you know, the community involved a little bit, not just this group of people that have been vocal, but there's, you know, large community that can give input and not just settle for sure on the fire station. That is one option, but see what the other needs are. So I really do appreciate this visual, but I would have a really hard time moving forward with that. And that it is going to be way more, like you said, Donna, way more than that price tag.
I have a quick.
So thank you for the visual.
Matt, one more comment.
Also, to Larry's point, is if we partnered with the school district, we'd see results a lot sooner than if we did a full, complete $20 million rebuild.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we're always talking about partnerships.
Right.
And this is a perfect opportunity for us to have that partnership with the school district and improve what they already have.
Right. Yeah, and the challenge that the schools have is that they don't go out and they don't promote and they don't like solicit, right, people to use their facilities because it's their facilities and they have to keep the kids safe, and you know there's a lot of other considerations. But with this particular one, it's not inside the campus, it's outside the campus. It's actually in a perfect spot that we could actually help them operate it. And maybe there's, concerts that are put on there. Maybe there's fundraisers that are done there. If it has new concessions, it has a new lobby, it has new bathrooms, state-of-the-art audiovisual. So there's a whole lot of positives that can be done there. And then I think, Larry, just getting somebody to give us, maybe take some public input. What does the public think the city campus should offer? I mean, is it a better planning department facility so that there's planning space for them and to interact with our business partners? Is it a better finance department? Is it a better HR area? There's a lot of opportunities, I think, to take this space and upgrade it. I mean, this is historic, right? This is a historic building. This is not going anywhere. But certainly we could redo the space inside of it. We did that once already. And so, there's, I think, opportunities to reuse this public space here and maybe build some new public space that might even architecturally be similar to this building, right? So that it all kind of ties together as a community campus, right? It's a city campus. So, yeah, so did you need any more direction on the auditorium? I think your general consensus is that we don't want to spend $13.5 or $20 million.
We will continue the dialogue with the elementary school district on the auditorium performing art segment of the discussion. We will move forward with starting more of the master plan concept with that space being an available location on this site.
Okay, is everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Got nods, heads nodding yes.
Perfect.
Okay, all right. Any other comments or questions from council? Anybody? All right, we'll stand adjourned until 7:05, 7:06. We'll get about 5 minutes, and then we'll reconvene the normal council meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Donna, how are you feeling?
Jet lagged,
I would imagine. That's,
jet lagged, yeah.
How many hour flight is that?
16-hour flight.
16.
That's just to, that's to LA.
evening, everyone. This is the City Council meeting of March 4th, 2024. Our first item on the agenda is our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. So I don't see anybody from the Faith Alliance.
He didn't send us an email today, did he?
Uh-uh.
Yeah. Anyone
So
from the Faith
would you mind,
Alliance?
Anthony? Anthony will lead us, and the pledge, too.
Yes.
There you go.
There we go.
All right.
Let us pray. Father, we come to you, Lord. We want to thank you, Lord, for blessing us once again to be able to come together as a city, all of our leaders, our council members, our mayor. Father, we just pray, Father, that you grant us wisdom and knowledge, that we handle the business of our city and our community in the right manner. We give you all glory, honor, and praise, for without you, we can do nothing in and of ourselves. So we want to thank you and we praise you. These blessings and favors we ask in your son Jesus' name. Thank God. Amen.
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 Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Anthony, for doing double duty.
I'll talk to Larry a little bit later about that.
You have to double your salary. All right, please let the roll call show that all members of the council are present.
So noted.
Next item is our minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I want to approve the minutes of the council regular meeting of February the 20th, 2024, as well as accept the minutes of the Casa Grande Police Personnel Retirement Board of February 16th, 2024.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. Claims against the city, item D, D1.
Mayor McFarland, I move to accept and pay the claims dated February 14th, 2024 through February 27th, 2024 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, claims are approved. Our meeting agenda approval. Mr. Raines, any changes from staff?
We have no changes, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone on council have anything you want to change? No. All right, seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, meeting agenda is approved. Next, we'll move to consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion and one roll call vote of the council. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or member of the public so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. Is there anyone who wants anything removed? Anyone from the public? Okay, seeing no one, then I'll entertain a motion.
Member McFarland, I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, this next segment is our public comments section. So I'm going to open the floor to anyone who would like to address the council. This will be your opportunity. I would remind you to please state your name and your address, and also understand that anything you talk about is not agendized, so we can't respond. But is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council? All right, seeing no one, then I'm going to close the floor, and we will move to our next item, which is actually item K and K1, Resolution 5626.
Thank you. Staff recommends that the mayor and city council approve and adopt the Casa Grande Municipal Airport Master Plan and Airport Layout Plan update. City council will recall that last year on February 21st, we did a study session Prior to that, you were given a copy of the master plan and had a chance to review that. During that study session, our consultant did a presentation going over the points of that master plan, what was included in that. Since that time, the FAA has had the opportunity to review the document, specifically looking at the traffic forecasts as well as the details in that layout plan to make any final changes that needed to be incorporated into that document. They've now approved that, so this is just us dotting the i's and crossing the t's to this process, asking you to adopt the final plan. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Kevin, is the delay because of FAA?
They took a while to review it, that's all I can say.
All right. I won't drag him through the mud then. Does anybody have any questions of Kevin? If you all recall the plan that we went over? Okay. All right, seeing no questions, then I'll entertain a resolution, please. Gloria?
Resolution number 5626, a resolution of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, approving and adopting the Casa Grande Municipal Airport Master Plan and Airport Layout Plan.
Mayor McFarland, I move to approve resolution number 5626 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next item is item K2. This is considering approval of Resolution 5628. Scott?
Mayor McFarland, members of the council, we're here this evening as a follow-up to a study session presentation on January 16th. And your overall direction at that point was to bring back the necessary amendments to our city employee personnel policy that would allow a change in how we compute overtime for our employees. As I described previously and in the council presentation, except for certain employees in the fire department that were hired before July 1st of 2006, we observe what's called a productive work period, generally speaking, and that is that employees have to actually work a minimum number of hours before overtime is calculated. And just to emphasize, that's what we've had as our policy for a very long time. And at all times, the city has been fully compliant with every law, rule, regulation, or policy. But the desire was to consider this change this evening. And with your approval of the proposed amendments to the personnel policy, the city would alter our overall policy and how we compute overtime, and we would go to exclusively what's called a non-productive work period, or non-productive, work period is exactly what it is. And what that means is that all hours credited to the employee, vacation, sick, PTO, all of those hours would be included in the calculation of overtime. And again, there's not a right or wrong, but this is a policy issue, and that's why it's before you this evening. I'll try to answer any questions you have.
Scott, what is the total impact annually? Is it's only $300,000? And I say only, it's $300,000. I shouldn't say only.
Plus fringe benefits.
We had calculated in our department and in the finance department, we kind of independently did our numbers, and in the predicted overall impact based on our experience to that point in time was calculated to be about $300,000.
That's the total cost?
That's the overtime that we would have paid had we had a non-productive work period. And Mr. Mayor, I should have pointed out that as far as effective date goes, I know that the council discussed that effective date. We've got some issues that we have to do behind the scenes. We have a payroll provider. We do the front end of payroll in HR. The finance department does the back end. And so after our discussion, I assigned my staff to look at all of the things that were necessary to make this happen. And in addition to that, the idea of making it effective with the first pay period in April reserves the fiscal impact just to the last quarter of the fiscal year. And so we're recommending that it be effective April 7th, 2024. Thank you for letting me add that.
Matt?
So this is for the entire organization?
That's correct. We'll be
You're-
totally uniform through all of the departments.
And then, how much are you anticipating in the pay-based fringe benefits? I mean, is that a big number, or?
We talk about fringe benefits, Councilmember Herman, and it varies from sworn, non-sworn because of generally speaking retirement costs. But rule of thumb in HR, we generally talk about 25 to 30% in pay-related fringe benefits, workers' compensation, retirement, Social Security when it's applicable, FICA, Medicare.
So we could be talking 400,000 estimate dollars
I think that
for
would
a
be.
year?
It would
I
be-
mean,
that's
I know
fair.
it's an estimate and you have formulas to figure
Yes.
that. And with that amount of money, I mean, shouldn't we budget that for the next fiscal year? I mean, just to be responsible.
I'll let Mr. Raines
And
respond to that.
also, I mean, yeah, we're going forward for that. And how are we gonna track this change, going forward if we adopt this policy?
And manage it too.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Because we already have overtime, I understand, but how would we track how this would affect our fiscal, the fiscal impact of this policy change?
Yeah, so a number of questions in that, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor. Councilmember Herman, let me first of all talk about timing and budget authority. Certainly, in the best-case scenario, you would align your policy changes that have any type of a financial impact to the start of a new fiscal year. As everyone knows, that would be July 1. You ultimately then incorporate these additional expenses in your annual budget, and they're calculated at that point in time. Based on the discussions and the feedback that we've received, there appeared to be some level of direction to ultimately implement that policy change this fiscal year. And so in this fiscal year, we would essentially be taking savings that are being incurred in the various departmental budgets, and we would be transferring those savings into our personnel costs to cover the additional costs that we've talked about. At this point in time, and Mr. Barber outlined, we anticipate that it would be about a fourth of what is estimated, so about $100,000, give or take, across all departments. Department directors are prepared to do that if it's implemented April 1. If the mayor and council's direction, if you're supportive of the policy change, and you, in fact, would prefer that we have an effective date of July 1, then we would incorporate those costs into the annual budget process that the mayor and council will be considering in April, May, and June. Does that answer the question on budgeting? In regards to the tracking of this, it is, at least in my mind, if the question is geared towards understanding what type of additional costs, whether or not our projections were accurate in the course of the fiscal year, it would be a very similar analysis. As I pointed out in the study session when we had the dialogue related to the potential policy amendments and change, this is something that requires us to sit down as a staff and essentially dissect pay timesheet by timesheet to determine whether or not they would have been eligible for non-work hours or not. I anticipate, and we've had several discussions with department directors, I anticipate that there will need to be what I would consider to be management oversight that's going to happen department by department on this to ensure that if there are what I would consider to be scenarios where perhaps individuals are attempting to maximize on overtime, then we would ultimately, we potentially could come back with additional policies, either that being a standard operating procedure within the department and or some type of a guideline that could, administrative directive that could provide additional direction out of my office. I don't necessarily know that it would require a policy change on the part of mayor and council. I will let the mayor and council know that we intend to manage this. We intend to evaluate it, the additional costs, but as has been pointed out, when you move to non-productive a non-productive type of a philosophy within your policies, it's going to cost additional dollars. And much of that, driver, as I've pointed out, the reality of it is that police and fire, our public safety facilities, departments, actually have the majority of the overtime. I know all of you are aware of that. I'm sure our citizens are as well, just based on the course of their responsibilities. And so the largest financial impact will come in those two departments. We have our medium-sized departments that will recognize overtime from time to time, such as Public Works and Community Services. Their financial impact is not as great on when you consider the work and how they go about that. But ultimately, it becomes, in my view, it becomes a scenario where we have to spend. We have to allocate our time as managers to ensure that we're effectively managing any type of overtime, whether that be regardless of what policy we would have.
So I think that our department heads, managers do a good job of managing that now, because I know it's part of the budget and we come in with that. And I know it's very important to have good employee morale, keep our employees as an incentive, but we also have a responsibility to the citizens to be fiscally responsible with the city's dollars. So I just want to make sure that it's, that we do have a way to do it so that it doesn't spin out of control, or that maybe it comes in under budget. I'd like to report that as well, so.
And Larry, before we get too far, so just to remind everybody, this policy change from a productive work period to a non-productive work period, which that should warn you to get the get-go in terms of what it's called, non-productive. Sorry, that's just my little jab in there. Is that an employee who takes 2 days of PTO and then goes to work, the 2 days of PTO count towards his work week. So even though PTO is a benefit, it's a benefit. It's not a worked hour. It's not work days. It's not work time. It's a benefit. It's a benefit that we give our employees, that they get paid time off. That's what PTO stands for, paid time off. So now that, if we change this policy, you're saying, okay, you can take your paid time off, count that towards your work week, and if I work 5 days normally and my 4th and 5th day are overtime, now I don't work 2 days, I work 1 day, and then I'm paid overtime for the last 2 days, even though I've only worked 3 days. Is that correct? Am I stating that right?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. So,
Mayor, if I might also add from a tracking, before we get too far off, the simple answer to that is that you'll see it in the departmental overtime budgets. So the tracking in terms of individual employees, it has to be accounted for in the budget, and so you'll be able to query the department directors who have an overtime line item if you have any questions about that.
but Scott, what's to prevent an employee from, this is going to sound bad, but gaming the system where I take 2 days of PTO and then I work 3 days. I take 2 days of PTO and I work 3 days. That's the part that needs to be managed. You can't have them doing that, even though they might have a lot of time because they've been with the city a long time. That's the part that I'm worried about, is how do we manage that? How do we make sure that isn't taken advantage of? The other piece is that this is a fiscal consideration, and I don't think I've ever been on this council where we have changed a budget in the middle of the year. We always have our budget retreat. We talk about the budget. The managers present their plan, and then it's approved, and it becomes effective July 1st. I don't understand who is pushing us to do this in the middle of a fiscal year. Is there somebody who's pushing it to be done in the middle of the fiscal year?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the initial concept of amending the policy was generated by our employees. And as I mentioned at the last study session, as we began to do the evaluation of this from the manager's office, it became clear to me that there was some paradigm shifts that were happening within other governments in the state of Arizona particularly. And what we found is that there were certain cities, there were certain cities that recognize labor associations through memorandums of understandings. And those memorandum of understandings were being negotiated to include non-productive pay as part of the package that the employees would get. And as managers, and some of the managers, as they began to watch that transpire, they've now elected to make it organizationally based. So it was going to be the same policy for all employees. And so as we were having discussions about this with the employees, I took the position that I did not want to parse out specific departments. I did not feel like that would be the right move for our organization. And so essentially, I suggested that if this was going to be a policy that was going to be a policy amendment that was going to be recommended to the elected body, that we were going to encompass all departments. And so that essentially was and Scott talks a bit about previous employees. At one point in time, we had a policy that exempted fire personnel from productive pay. Up until 2006, none of their employees, all of their employees were on a non-productive pay policy. Everybody else was on productive pay. And in 2006, there was negotiations that took place with that particular department about other types of changes that they wanted in their work schedule and the like, and they ended up moving away from productive pay. That was what was essentially negotiated, for lack of better words. It wasn't done through an MOU. It was a verbal understanding between the city manager's office and that particular group. And so they find themselves in a scenario where they have a hybrid, where any employee before 2006, they're already reaping the benefit of a non-productive pay. Anybody after 2006 isn't. And in essence, you begin to see how that tipping point evolves. But as far the dialogue was initiated by employee groups into my office. I basically suggested that I would not feel comfortable bringing a policy amendment of this nature for one particular group and elected to expand it to all employees.
And I think that's fair. I think that's if we decide that this is what we want to do, whether it's productive work period or non-productive work period, that it should be across the board. Philosophically, I have a problem with it. So, I mean, but I've stated my opinion to you before. Jeff?
Larry, just a couple of clarifications, because I don't like productive, unproductive, overtime. The bulk of this is public safety, who are scheduled to work these hours. So if these public employees did not take PTO or did not take vacation or bereavement during the year, we'd be paying this $300,000 because that's time they're scheduled to work. Am I correct, sir?
If they had not taken any time off, you are right.
So the city benefits $300,000 because our employees are taking bereavement, vacation, and PTO, time that they've earned, but they benefit because they're having to make a decision to take time off and lose their pay, what they would be paid if they're working, correct?
Under that particular analysis, yes. I do want to make sure that we're clear, Councilmember Lavender, on the pay that they would earn. Obviously, in the fire department specifically, they are eligible for an overtime benefit simply because of the pay periods that they are working, the 56-hour work week, right? And so your analysis is right in the scenario of when they do, if they're post 2006 employees, that is correct.
Yeah. So this isn't an employee working at Circle K or the other example I heard at McDonald's where somebody doesn't show up to work and we go up and say, Donna, can you stay late tonight? You're on overtime. In situations like these are assigned work hours that if they didn't take the time off, we'd be paying the money anyhow.
Is PTO assigned work hours?
They're assigned to work during that time. They take PTO because they've earned the time off, no differently than I take vacation or I have PTO at work. I've earned that time, but I'm still assigned to work. But I get deducted that day. So there's no way you could play your 3-and-2 game very long unless they've earned 100 days of vacation, which means they've been working a lot for us over that period of time.
Donna?
Okay, so a couple things, and I know this affects the budget, and I understand where Matt's coming from in respect to the July 1 budget versus now. And I agree with the mayor, is, you know, we have a budget that we go by and that we need to follow that. This affects our directors and managers because as the mayor was talking, you know, as a manager, I have to make sure my employees are following the rules and protocols and things like that. That's my responsibility. So they're going to have to do that. So like Jeff said, playing that game, if you have a responsible manager, that's not going to happen. And that's where the city manager comes in. I will say that this is a retention effort. You know, I work for the county and they have gone over and above to try to retain employees because we're losing them so fast to other cities and stuff. So when I look at this money, I look at it as a retention effort because if we have somebody here for 2 or 3 years and we've invested thousands of dollars into, you know, them learning their job just for them to take and go someplace else because, you know, they can't, and it is time earned. I've earned my time. I just came back from my sabbatical. I have earned that over 20 years with the county, and they have rewarded me with that for all the hours that I have worked. And as an employee, a government employee, I appreciate and I value what they have done for me. And I think that my loyalty to the county has shown that. And I think that that's what our employees deserve as well. And it is about employee satisfaction and making sure they're taken care of. And we don't want them to not use their PTO if they, you know, if they're sick. We don't want them to come to work if they're sick because that, you know, that takes other people into account. I am very much for this. I have been all along. My only issue I have is I truly feel that we need to be responsible to the budget and to the people that you know, pay us to be here and make those decisions. And a July 1st with our budget to give our staff time to prepare for that.
Manage. Yeah, I'll just go back. What Matt Herman said, all this is going to come back. Our managers just have to do their jobs. And I believe they will. They will. I believe that. And so I'm in favor of it as well.
Bob?
Yeah, I'm in favor of it as well, and I wanted to say some of this is a change in philosophy, like Donna said. I think the employees, the staff, feel an ownership on that PTO time. Like you said, they've earned it, they own it, they should be able to use it without penalty. And that's what this ultimately does. It contributes back to that productive work period instead of penalizing them for it. And I will say too, Scott, I don't know what year it was when we went to productive work period, but I believe prior to that, we got overtime. And I remember all the grumbling back then and didn't think it was fair. And maybe that was one of the transitions, I don't know. But I know that's what the employees want. Now, I was also going to say the dollar amounts that we've heard for this partial year, I don't believe are out of sight and undoable. And as a former department head, I don't know if it's still this way, but I had a total dollar figure to run the department, and I could transfer those around with the city manager's approval. So something like this wouldn't put me out of budget. It was absorbable within the department. And I suspect that's the same now, but I don't think that number is so big that we're going to go out of budget.
It is our job to make sure we manage the budget. That's our job, and to not spend taxpayer money that really isn't budgeted. So I hear you. You can move dollars around, but is that the right thing to do? Is that the responsible thing to do in terms of our budget? And what we approved, we all approved it back in June and July. So anyway. you had something.
No, I was just going to say, Larry, I appreciate you made a comment. You said something about being fair. I think we should be fair to everyone. Everyone. And I believe that this will be fair. Now, of course, there's some work that has to be done behind the scenes. We understand that. But we're thinking about our workers and all that they do for us. And so I appreciate you saying that, though, being fair.
Lisa?
And I agree with my fellow council members here, and Mayor, I understand your concern and how you've outlined it, and you look at what the cost is going to be, and, similar to what Councilmember McBride said, this is an investment in our employees, and, I know having a business, how difficult it is getting employees and getting people, especially where we're located. I mean, we know we're a great city, but sometimes it's tough getting people to work here, so I think it's a competitive edge, having something that may be a little different, but it looks like other cities are moving, this way as well. So, I like Councilmember Lavender said, it is a, earned benefit. I think it does need to be monitored to make sure that people aren't taking advantage. But I'm sure once, the managers have their program and processes in place, we'll move forward. So I understand, as far as April 1st versus July 1st, in a way, maybe this last quarter will give us an idea of where those numbers are. So it might be a little bit helpful for us to put that budget to, a couple months at least, numbers to help us in that budget process. But, if it's something that we feel that we need to wait till July 1st, I would be good with that, approve it and then wait. But I think though that last quarter could help us in our budgeting process as well.
Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Matt.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons brought it up. Do you know how many cities around the state, any idea, are using this, or?
I don't know the exact number.
But when you say quite a few.
What you're going to find in our area, I really do think that they're likely the trendsetters, the cities that are recognizing, are utilizing a memorandum of understanding. And to get a context of that, let me just say this, that productive pay policies were put into, in my opinion, they were put on the books to control overtime. They were put on the books to assist organizations with costs, right, with their budgets and the like. And there was likely a period of time where all 91 cities had productive pay policies of some sort on the books. And to the point about trends beginning to change or beginning to see a trend, there are a number of those cities, primarily in the valley, and or that are in some type of a meet and confer type of a environment, that you're beginning to see more and more of that being included as part of the dialogue in those negotiations, whenever that may come up. We will be one of the early implementers of moving the organization to a full policy. And so I would tell you that off of my memory, there were 2 or 3 cities that had done that in the Valley. We did, after we initially queried the Valley cities and began to better understand what this change in philosophy, we recognize that it's unlikely that every city in the state has adopted this change. And moreover, what we did find as we were doing our analysis is that we saw a number of cities that had a bit of hybrid. And what I mean by hybrid is that, for example, they would recognize a vacation day or paid time off as a day that would be considered productive for overtime calculations, but they were exempting sick leave and other types. So you've got cities that have a variety of different policies where they recognize benefits differently and what is and what is not considered productive pay. Again, in my view, when you start to move into a scenario like that, it becomes very difficult to manage and track. And I don't know that you can write enough management policies to navigate around people attempting to utilize that. So, once we began to gauge the idea, the thought was, let's not go to the hybrid process and create more issues for ourselves. That, again, that is certainly an option that the mayor and council could have, but at least from my perspective, it becomes a bit of an administrative headache to manage in the long term.
And I want to commend you, Larry, and the department heads for all the managers,
Yeah.
like everyone said, Councilmember Edwards, everyone, but also for making a policy decision, and also, if we do this, and also for the entire organization.
Yeah.
Because we do need to value all the employees equally, because they are, without them, there's no city to support our citizens, so it's important.
Can I just get a point of clarification, because I think there's two different things we're deciding. One is to change the policy, and two is the effective date of either April 7th or July 1st.
July 1st, that is correct.
So do we need to vote twice, or do we just?
No, we just need to change the resolution.
Mayor McFarland and Councilmember Lavender, I think ultimately you have two options, right? The traditional sort of Robert's Rules of Order is you move the item as it is presented. If you, in the past, when we've had ones where it seems like every council member is in favor of it, you can also move it with an effective date, but then you're voting just on that. If anyone wants to change that, the traditional method is to move and second it, and then have anyone else move to amend it. You'd vote on the amendment first, and then you would vote on the policy as a whole. So you can do it either way. If someone wants to move it with an effective date, someone else could move to amend that effective date. But one way or another, if there's a split on that and you want to vote separately on the effective date, it would be through the amendment process to the resolution.
Okay. Well, I'll entertain a resolution, but I'd like an amendment to it. Hey, I never get to give an amendment.
That's true.
You can't.
Resolution number 5628, a resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, authorizing the March 2024 policy amendments to the city of Casa Grande personnel policy.
Mayor McFarland, I would move for approval of resolution number 5628 as presented.
Second.
Mayor McFarland, I move to amend the motion to be effective July 1st, concurrent with our budget year.
Second.
All right. Is that
But there
acceptable?
was already
Who
a
was the
second.
second to the amendment?
Donna?
If you'll give us just a second, July 1st is obviously the start of the new fiscal year, but it helps to align with the specific pay period as well.
What I would suggest, as I'm hearing it, it was, and I'll let Mr. Barber and Mr. Raines weigh in, but we would add at the end of the first paragraph to say, this change shall be effective as of the pay period including July 1st
Thank
of
you.
'24.
Thank you.
I believe it'll actually start on June 30th.
Yes, I think you're right.
Okay.
So we're
Is that all right, Scott?
So we're going to vote.
So pay period,
Yes, ma'am, we don't accrue payroll, so when you approve changes, general adjustments to employee pay, okay, it's the first pay period in July it hits. So that's the concept, that's what we're trying to achieve.
Okay. Can we just say June 30th, if that's it?
we say the first
July
pay
1st.
period in
I
July.
think if we just include the pay period including
Okay.
July 1st,
Okay.
then that'll make it very clear for them as to.
That's what I
that-
said.
Whatever that is. If the
I
pay
would-
period ends on July
yeah.
1st, then it's then. If it starts on July 1st, it's then. But it is very difficult without going through that whole process to determine. And because people's work weeks are different, generally ours do all start on Sunday as a standard work week. I think it's easier to do the pay period including July 1st. But ultimately, it is your policy.
That's what I had meant to say was the pay period including July 1st in my amendment.
I meant to
Can
second.
I,
There was already a
So
second.
Brett, are
can I
we,
ask Brett an amendment
No,
question?
amendment first.
I'm probably going to ask this, yeah, go ahead.
Brett, can we vote no to the amendment, but yes on the policy?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to vote twice
We're
then?
going to vote
Amendment
once on the amendment.
Okay,
Assuming there are
gotcha.
no amendments to the amendment, we'll vote on the amendment first, and then you would vote on the resolution as a whole. And-
Thank you.
That was your question too?
I did, yeah. So my amendment was seconded.
Yes, the amendment was seconded, so we'll vote on the amendment first. So you want to do a roll call vote, Gloria, on the amendment?
On the amendment. Councilmember Lavender,
No.
Councilmember Huddleston,
No.
Councilmember McBride,
No.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons,
No.
Councilmember Herman,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards,
No.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes.
And now we'll go back to vote on the resolution.
So then the resolution wouldn't be April 1st,
April 7th.
It'd be
April 7th, whatever it is.
April 7th.
Okay. Councilmember Lavender,
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston,
Yes.
Councilmember McBride,
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Edwards,
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
I'm going to vote no, only because I totally disagree with the policy in the first place, and I would have liked to seen July 1st. So, no. All right, next is our reports, and I'm going to start with you, Bob.
No report, Mayor. Just looking forward to your address on Wednesday.
Lisa?
As we all know, it's scholarship time, a lot of scholarships for our high school seniors. Just a reminder for anyone who has a senior here in Pinal County, the Cesar Chavez Committee is going to be awarding again. We're in our 18th year awarding scholarships. We'll be awarding about $40,000 to $45,000. So if you have a senior, please get on. You have to email your application by March 8th, and then it has to be postmarked by this Wednesday if you're mailing it in. And the information is CesarChavezPinal.org. Lori is actually taking some of those on the email, the applications. So please get that in. Chief, thank you for having us for your awards. It's so nice seeing all your great employees, and it was so great to see 2 women get the Dispatcher of the Year and Firefighter of the Year. So go women. Yeah, I love seeing that. And then the Cactus Flying, great day out there. You just remember how the airport and all the activities out there, but there were some really cool airplanes and automobiles out there. And that's it for me, Mayor.
Anthony?
Just to piggyback off of Councilmember Fitzgibbon, Chief, wonderful banquet for our firefighters as well as communications. Truly, it was a wonderful banquet. Food was excellent as well. And it was good to see the retired firefighters. It was good to see them. And so thankful to have the opportunity to be there and celebrate the awards with them for a job well done that they do behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know about. And so thankful for being invited to that.
All right.
Thanks, Mayor. The fly-in, I did get to make that on Saturday. It was great. I got a lot of compliments about the airport from the participants in the fly-in too, so that was good. Everyone's pretty happy with it. And then the Youth Commission had a Garden of Sunshine event on Saturday that went well. And the GoFundMe that was set up for the Bob Mitchell Memorial already has over $5,400 in it. So don't forget to look at the GoFundMe for the Bob Mitchell Memorial plaque out in front. And I am going to talk about this on Wednesday in my presentation. It's the inaugural Southwest Taco Fest featuring Roger Klein, the Peacemakers, on March 30th, and locally made tacos, salsas, mariachis, food, beverage, lots of fun. So, tacos. So we'll talk about that on Wednesday.
Something to talk about.
Roger Klein and the Peacemakers.
They get their stuff back?
Yeah, they did. They did get most of
They
their
got their
equipment back
stuff
that
back,
got
yeah.
stolen, yes.
Donna?
Well, I'm actually on Australia time, which is Wednesday morning, so I don't have any reports other than to say that, when I was in New Zealand and Australia, I was really proud of the artwork that we have in Casa Grande, because I couldn't stop comparing all the different cities and stuff and what they had. And so we have much to be proud of. I did want to just mention for us to keep Joanne Platt in our prayers. Her and David are constant here in our community and always attend, and she is struggling, so just to keep her in our prayers. So, thank you.
No plan.
No report, sir.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. I don't have a whole lot. Just to remind everybody that we do have our State of the City. Thank you, Bob, for mentioning that. But State of the City this Wednesday at 1 o'clock. It is open to the public. And my fellow council members and I will be giving you all an update on everything that's going on in the city. So I look forward to that. Yeah, I got it. And then we have the plenary event coming up on March 21st, or that's the deadline.
You meant to say plein air.
Plein air, sorry. It's calling all artists for the, here, where is that? Oh, there it is, okay. Thank you. The snake that would bit me. March 30th, so artist registration's at 7:30. Painting begins at 7:30, goes till 2:30. And there's free kids activities, there's art sale, there's free hot dogs, so come get your hot dogs. Yep, it's the same thing. So that's about all I've got. There's a lot going on in the community, but we'll give everybody an update on Wednesday. Anything else, anybody? All right, thank you, everyone, and meeting adjourned.
So me and my wife watched it.